Anything else with regards to components. I just want you to understand the components of the sprayer, so when you're out in the field talking to guys, you can identify what each one of these things are easily and kind of what they do. I mean, as far as performance numbers, 4200 CFM coming out of the blower, displacement of the hydraulic fluids at 22 gallons per minute on a 30-gallon tank. All right, that's what they're really going to know. So with that being said, now let's talk about what the sprayer does. Now we get into why GenZ, what's different. We've said that it's, it kind of mirrors a bar sprayer. It doesn't, it doesn't. We start with the principle of the bar sprayer. So you've got top-down spray. So it can't do any worse than a standard bar sprayer, because it is a standard bar sprayer underneath that hood. So once people get really wrapped up in this whole thing going, oh my goodness, what's it, that's totally different. Is that going to work? I've never seen anything like this. It can be a little bit confusing. It's a little bulky. It's a little wide. It can be unwieldy at first when you get into it. And they're sitting there and they've got this big sprayer off the back end, and it's just different. Doesn't mean it's good or bad, it's just different. I kind of equate it to, you jump into a real small sports car and you're driving that around for a couple weeks, and you got all this room on each lane of the road, everything's fine and dandy. Then you jump into one of your big trucks, and all of a sudden that lane shrinks down a little bit, you got mirrors sticking out, you got cars really close to you. You're going, man, this thing's big, it's bulky, I don't have as much room, maneuverability. After driving that for a few days, you're whipping down the road and the mirrors are no longer a problem. The lanes look just as big as they did in the sports car, and you're off to the races. You have absolutely no more problems. Same thing with the sprayer. At first you get into it, you're going, man, this is, it's different, it's a little bit big. You drive it for a couple of days, and I think these guys can attest to that as well. At first it looks big, you get into it, and then it becomes comfortable. It's not a problem. It maneuvers around the fields just as easily as a bar sprayer does. It folds up just like a bar sprayer would. You can do anything and everything with this sprayer that any traditional bar would do out there. And it becomes a much more effective tool when we get into what's the hood do, what's the pod do. What are we trying to create? We're trying to create an environment inside the spray chamber, the spray area. Top-down technology, you're what, 12, 14, 18 inches above the crop. Sometimes you push it down a little bit closer. But that's a pocket of air that you're spraying down into, and the atmosphere absolutely can take anything and everything right off target. It blows it down into the atmosphere, it blows it downstream, and it becomes less effective. You're using a much smaller percentage of your chemical or your spray material to get to the crop. The hood's providing a shield around your spray material. So while you're spraying down and you're spraying from the sides, that hood is protecting lateral winds. Yeah, you say, Nick, but what about front to back? Because it's an open chamber, blow right through. We have curtains that we put on the back sides of this. All right, it will allow you to spray in winds. You guys, I believe, have curtains on the machine that you're using. You keep those down pretty much all the time, right? Now you have entrapment. You've got 3 areas or 3 sides covered. You're not going to get blow through. That will absolutely shield the wind from coming front to back as well as side to side. Curtains are a really good thing to have on them. Not always required. Right? If you're staying within legal parameters, which we always recommend, 10 miles, 11 miles an hour, I believe is what it is. When you're supposed to be spraying in conditions like that, you really don't need the curtains. You're going to control a lot of the drift with the vacuum. So that patented system is absolutely going to let you do your job effectively without curtains. If you're worried about wind or how your field's set up, all right? So we got a lot of wind coming in off the coast, and you got a field that's going this way, and you do get a little breeze in the afternoon, and you want to start a little bit earlier. Throw some curtains on there, protect yourself, okay? So now you're shielded. The pod is absolutely doing its job by shielding and eliminating the wind from taking your material off target. You're putting it inside of a chamber. It's keeping it contained inside here right over the crop. That's starting to increase the effectiveness of your sprayer already. by just having the hood or having the pod on there. We talked about the air, being able to drive the air into the system and into the crop. You put air into the crop, it starts to move those leaves. Those leaves are going to start to flutter. As you put this over the top of the crop, you're going to start seeing those things move. If they're moving and they're opening, we're aspirating the crop, we're opening that crop up, you are now getting your spray content inside, underneath, top and bottom of the leaves, where the bugs live. They live underneath the leaves. They generally don't live right on top. Some do, but most of them are going to get into little teeny pockets. If you take a look at lettuces, as you're going over the top of it, it's going to take a romaine and it's basically going to open that up. When you open that up, you're getting deeper deposits down into the core of the plant. If you're getting down in there, that's where a lot of those bugs are. When we were out at Earthbound doing trials with them, they absolutely saw an increase in performance over a bar spray. We physically watched the plant open and close as we went over it. So we were running a surround test out there one day, and the effectiveness versus the bar was night and day. The bar sprayer looked very splotchy. With ours, it was systematically coated, and that was just straight surround. There was no surfactant in it. There was nothing else inside that. And you can see where we were getting deeper, and their agronomist, did I say that correctly? Perfect. Was actually going inside and opening the plant, or the crop up, looking for the deposits down in there, and we were getting beads that were all the way down in the core. So when you're out there walking the fields behind us during a demo, that's what you should be seeing. That does not mean that every single leaf on every single plant and every single percentage of that plant is going to be covered 100%. Not going to happen. It's not realistic. Go walk behind a bar sprayer and see the kind of coverage that you get. It's not ever going to be 100% coverage from top and bottom of the leaf. What this does is increases that percentage though. So you get much better systematic coverage. So now we've shielded the bar sprayer. We've dropped curtains on the back if you need it for additional winds coming front to back. And we've increased or added air to it. By adding air, now you've added 3 different components into what a standard bar would be. Then you add the vacuum. And what's the vacuum doing for us? Again, as you're spraying over, you're leaving some tails. So any tailings that you're driving beyond, in a standard bar sprayer, top down, turns into drift. And you'll literally stand behind a bar sprayer. The minute that it turns on and they start going, you'll see the spray content. You're focused on that, but then you're going to start seeing the tailings. Whatever the way the wind is moving, you're going to start seeing some movement on that. With the GenZ sprayer, what you're really going to see is you'll get some of that. It's about 85% reduction of drift versus a bar. That's being controlled by vacuum. So as we're driving over, and anything that's not being put into the crop, which we're putting a much higher percentage of material onto the crop itself, that vacuum with any of the tailings left over are sucking that back up. So that's providing drift control. Now in this system, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. All right, so you've got a fan selector here, so you can increase the wind speed or decrease the wind speed. But for every point that I increase or decrease, I'm going to increase vacuum by that same percentage. All right, so the amount of air that you're getting in is the amount of air that you're pushing out by volume. So whatever I decrease that by, I decrease that off the vacuum side also. If you turn the air all the way off on this, now you've got a hooded sprayer. It's not providing any air, and it's not providing any vacuum. Certain times that's perfect. Sometimes on a small crop, I do not want to just stroke a bunch of dust. So I turn that fan either off or all the way down. I don't have a problem in newly root crops where I can't turn the thing over with the spray content alone, and we're getting the amount of pressure out of the nozzles to spray. But as that crop starts to mature and it gets a little bit bigger, I'm going to want to turn that up a little bit. So I may put it on an early setting or a small setting of 3 or 4, 5 on mid-season growth. By the time that canopy starts to get large, then I'm going to crank it up generally all the way. It's going to give me my max control. It's going to give me the amount of air that I want to be able to open that crop and push everything into it. One thing that you'll notice on this sprayer setup right now, which has not been adjusted, but it's set up more for the demonstration purposes. In the past, a lot of these were set just like this, where you see the tip pointing straight down. What we've done is we now angle the tips. These will be put at about a 20-degree angle back towards the air. So my spray nozzle and air intersect are going to be about right here, a couple inches away from the air nozzle. By doing that, I'm injecting basically the spray material into the air, and wherever the air goes, that material is going to go. Venturi sprayers are set up where you see a lot of nozzles placed, or the spray nozzle placed inside the air nozzle. Same thing, it's allowed to carry that material wherever the air goes, the material is going to go. It gives you an increase in effective coverage by doing that. If you spray straight down, or by chance these got loose over time, vibration, whatever, and you notice that these starting to pitch forward, absolutely readjust and reposition it back towards the air. All right, future designs, you're probably going to see these get a lot closer together. That way we're mixing a lot faster. By doing that, we've increased the effectiveness by quite a bit. With all the trials that we've done with this design, we're getting on average a 50% increase in efficacy. What does that mean for a grower? If you guys are seeing an increase, your customer's probably happier, right? A little bit? Increased yield.